Well, that is now 19 consecutive innings without scoring a run. Let's talk about it. All today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, May 16th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Happy Thursday, everybody. Detroit Tigers lose again to the Miami Marlins. They drop the series. They lose the game 2-0 at home. They are now below 500 for the first time this season, sporting a 21-22 record. They get shut out in back-to-back games against the Marlins and have not scored a run in what is now 19 consecutive innings. That is remarkable in the most negative possible connotation. This was an opportunity for you to get on track. And no matter how you slice it, you are wasting pitching. Right? We'll get into that in a second. But this was your opportunity to right the ship, as we said yesterday, as we said last week on Thursday, right? You ended April. You won a series against the Cardinals. You won 4 consecutive series. You then got swept in the Bronx and dropped 2 of 3 to Cleveland. You went 1-5 on that road trip. 2 good teams. Your offense showed up in 1 game. I mean, really. You had that huge 11-run burst against Cleveland in game 2. And besides that, you lost every single game and scored 4 less runs. You go, okay, well, here's the opportunity, right? The next 6 games, you're at home and you're playing Houston, who's been terrible this year. And you're playing the Marlins, who quite literally are the worst team in baseball. Here's your opportunity. And the Tigers, in said 6-game stretch, went 2-4. You had a random offensive explosion yet again in game 2 against Houston. And outside of that, it was pretty dreadful. It was 3 or less earned runs a game. Monday, the game with the Torkelson home run, right? Even that game, 3 of your 6 runs were unearned because of an error in the second inning. The Marlins came into town not only with the worst record in baseball. This was a pitching staff specifically that had been comfortably the worst in baseball. The crazy thing is, even after this, it still is the worst in baseball. You scored 3 runs in 3 games. 3 earned runs, again, in 3 games. And they're still the worst pitching staff in baseball. They've given up well over 250 runs already on the season. It's like 255 or 256, right? No one else, I don't think anyone else even has over 240. Maybe not even 230. Maybe 230. They have a decent cushion, though, right? They have comfortably given up the most runs in baseball this season. And the 3 starting pitchers you went up against were Sixto Sanchez, who had a 7.5 ERA going into his game, Ryan Weathers, who had an ERA of over 4.5 going into his, and then Trevor Rogers, who had an ERA of over 6.5 going into his start on the season. Total, as in total, as in all of those three starters combined. Again, total gave up 0 earned runs to the Detroit Tigers. All three of them. The only 3 runs that were given up while those 3 pitchers were on the mound were Sixto Sanchez after an error that should have ended the inning, and all 3 runs were unearned. 0 earned runs between those 3 starters. And again, 19 consecutive innings without a run is pretty much maybe the only stat you really need to know. Absolutely dreadful. And to a point I made earlier, I think the most frustrating part of this to me is it feels like a complete waste, right? This is not the 2003 Tigers. This is not the 2019 Tigers, right? These are not pitching staffs that are giving up a lot of runs. The 2003 Tigers is one of the worst pitching staffs you will ever look at in your entire life, right? This is a pitching staff that has not only been good, it has been legitimately one of the better pitching staffs in the entire game of baseball. You have 2 players that I believe are in the top 10 in ERA. Jack Flaherty has been absolutely phenomenal. Casey Mize, really solid again in this one. Sub 4 ERA. Right? Your bullpen over the course of the season has graded out to be one of the better bullpens in baseball. So not only just from the perspective of, well, yeah, like, duh, they're wasting it. They're literally scoring 0 runs. That's like by definition, you're wasting whatever the pitcher does. But also just looking around the landscape of baseball, right? There is no guarantee that these guys are going to be healthy for the next 5 years straight. If anything, odds are really highly stacked against that, right? And we have really good pitching prospects on the way, right? We have guys that people are excited about. Jackson Jobe, obviously the most notable. Now with the Skeens promotion, the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball. You're wasting pitches. At any moment, any pitcher can get hurt. It is absurd. It's inexcusable to look around at what is happening to pitchers across the sport and, for all intensive purposes, again, just waste bullets. It's asinine. And that is the most frustrating part of this entire thing to me. And that goes beyond this year, right? That's just like an overall sentiment. Again, like I knock on wood, I'm hoping everybody's healthy the remainder of this season. But like we were talking about it going into the year, nobody in this rotation was a guarantee to even go 150 innings. You can't waste pitches. And that's what this feels like more than anything to me. "19 innings without a run. It's remarkable." Let's keep talking about it, shall we? We'll do that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA and MLB, which makes getting playoff tickets for basketball or just, baseball games as always faster and easier Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the start of the game with killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. They have a ton of great features. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. You can save even more when you choose the section and let Game Time choose the seat for zone deals. They also have the Game Time guarantee that will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is also covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow with a mailbag. We have an off day on Thursday as you're listening to this. So be sure to send your questions. You can tweet them at me. You can DM them to me. You can, if you watch on YouTube, you can put them just in the comment section, and I will get to as many as possible. I doubt we'll be able to get through every single question, but obviously I won't get any questions that are asked post when I record on Thursday afternoon. But I will get to as many as I possibly can. Just a nice off day. We haven't had a mailbag yet this season, so good time for that. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever sports channel that streams 24/7. On YouTube. You could subscribe on YouTube or check it out in the Amazon Fire TV channels app. Okay. So the Detroit Tigers haven't scored a run in 19 innings. You have all of these pitchers who are doing absolutely phenomenal, and they have done nothing. The thing that might be the most concerning, I guess is the terminology I'm going to use, to me is let's just go through the hitters in the lineup from the game on Wednesday. Okay, we're not playing the OPS game. We'll talk about their numbers, but I'm not going to subject anybody to playing the OPS game. Okay, I'll spare you all today. I just want to look at this and go, how much more do you expect stat line wise out of a lot of these players? Because outside of a couple very obvious ones, I'm not sure that you're expecting a whole lot more from a whole lot of these guys, which is extremely alarming if that is the case. Okay, so let's just talk about some of them. Matt Vierling, 266 average, 690 OPS. Matt Vierling's career OPS at the major league level is 700. If you're expecting significantly more than what Matt Vierling has provided, I respect the heck out of him. I think he has some value to this team. I like the fact that he's trying to make adjustments and trying to get better. They have not resulted in anything different from what we have seen, right? I don't expect too much more than what we've gotten out of Matt Vierling so far this season. Andy Ibanez, 304 average, 763 OPS. Are you expecting more than a 300 hitter from Andy Ibanez with power against lefties? I don't think so, right? I don't think that was the plan going into the year, was for him to be in your two hole, be one of your better hitters. That's probably not this thing going super well. Winfield Perez hitting 289 with an 841 OPS. There is not a soul on this planet that can say that they are expecting or want more from Winfield Perez so far in his major league career. Mark Canha, 241 average, 797 OPS. Maybe you like a little bit more in the batting average department, but currently that OPS is 20 points higher than his career OPS. We talked about it going into the season. I fully expected a mid 700s OPS. If anything, he's been better than what I expected going into the season. Gio Urshela, 270 average, 583 OPS. Now, this is a weird one. Obviously, the OPS is astronomically low, but the batting average is not bad. That's kind of the profile. Hate to break it to you. Did you see that at bat he took with the bases loaded? One of the worst at bats we've seen from anybody lately, which is really saying something. 3 pitches out of the zone, bases loaded, 2 outs. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Completely uncompetitive. He's walked, I think, 1 time this year, maybe 0. No, I think 1 time this season. He's not going to draw walks. If you watch his swing, there is 0 power in that. He's going to put the bat on the ball. He's going to get a lot of singles. There's value in that, sure. I'm not expecting too much more than a 270 average. The OPS will get better, naturally, assuming he keeps hitting singles. But I'm not expecting walks or power, and that's what raises OPS a lot. Kerry Carpenter, 271 average, 826 OPS. If you expected Kerry Carpenter to be like a 900 OPS hitter, I guess, but I think this is around the production we expected out of him. Spencer Torkelson, 220 average, 626 OPS. Obviously, that's a huge one you can circle and go, yes, we clearly expected way more out of him in all aspects so far this season. So there you go. There's one that's very much you would hope for more as we go forward. Javi Baez, 422 OPS. Now, this one's the funniest one because he's been so bad at the plate that you can actually argue that you did expect more out of him, even though your opinion of him going into the year was already, for most people, in the gutter. Right? But he's been that bad. He's been the worst hitter in all of baseball bad. So you can still say, like, yeah, I at least expected, I don't know, a 550 OPS, which is awful. But Carson Kelly, 215 average, 588 OPS. That's about what he did last season with the Tigers. Not sure if, magically that being super different was really on the table. Got on base 4 times today. His average went up to 215. His OPS went up to 588. Riley Green, pinch hit, 239 average, 824 OPS. I think that's another one you can say slightly more. Yeah, he's been sliding a lot lately. Maybe he's just streaky. A lot of strikeouts lately. Colt Keith, 171 average, 431 OPS. Obviously, that's an easy one that you can point to and go, yeah, we all expect way more from him going forward. Jake Rogers, 200 average, 575 OPS. Not expecting a whole lot more in the average department, but certainly you'd like some more power in the bat. You'd like some more home runs like last season. You want that OPS to be much higher. So my point, and then Zach McKinstry, 213 average, 572 OPS. No, funny though. So that's everybody who played. It's just about everybody, I think. I think that might be every hitter currently on the roster. There you go. So we're expecting a lot more from Torque and Colt Keith. More from Jake Rogers. Some of these guys aren't like significantly underperforming, is my point. That's what I'm trying to highlight. Matt Vierling has not been way worse than he has been in his career this season. Andy Ibanez certainly has not. He's been better. Mark Hanna has been better. Kerry Carpenter, I'm just repeating myself at this point. You know what I'm trying to articulate? This is not good. This is scary. Okay. Let's keep talking about it. We'll do that right after this. Got to talk to you all today about our friends over at FanDuel. We love our friends over at FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. I appreciate you all greatly for tuning in. So we've talked a lot about the offense. I think rightfully so. They've been absolutely dreadful. The picture that I'm trying to paint here is that it is hysterical in hindsight to think back to the offseason and think about the quotes of um, like no room for certain players or, adding specific players to the roster, not wanting to block certain players, et cetera, et cetera. When this is your offensive production on a semi-consistent basis at this point in the season. But again, really the picture that I'm trying to paint is just that like this might just be not great. Because we're at a point now where you look at these season lines for some of these guys and you go, okay, well, I expect a little bit more from him. I expect more from him. But if you go one by one, I'm not really sure that there's a ton. There's obviously some. I'm not trying to say that just like this is how it should be and this is what we expected this badly, at least necessarily, right? We talked about Torkelson, Keith, Rogers, right? Like there's certainly guys that you can point to and be like, yeah, like, you should be doing a lot better. Javi, obviously, that's 4 or 5 players. It's almost half a lineup. I'm not trying to make it sound like everybody just like every single hitter is just awful and that's the end of the conversation. Um, but the room for growth, that is what I'm trying to drive home. The room for growth is what? Torkelson starts hitting well. Colt Keith starts hitting well. Okay. Concerning, I think would be an understatement. The pitching was phenomenal. And that is why, again, I voiced my frustrations earlier about the wasting of arms that this team has done up to this point. Casey Mize was phenomenal. Velo was down in this one, but he was pretty straight up about it after the game. Throwing a lot this week, he said, and he was making a lot of adjustments, kind of tinkering with some stuff. So he wasn't concerned about it. So I'm not concerned about it. I thought the slider was fine. I don't think it looked awful. I didn't think it was a weak pitch in this one. It wasn't, a DeGrom slider, but it wasn't. It wasn't some awful pitch either. I wouldn't say I was moved by it, which is what I was going for, as I said yesterday. But I do think that that it looked fine. I think it's something you can build upon. The splitter, he threw a couple of cookies with that splitter. For a competent team, probably gives up a few more runs. But for the most part, I thought it was a pretty effective pitch. Like I said, the fastball velocity a little bit down, but overall, thought it was pretty fine. The curveball was really good, except the one that wasn't. Obviously, the home run was off of a just absolute hanging curveball. Threw a lot of sinkers inside to righties, which the broadcast did a great job of talking about as well. Yeah, I mean, I which I love it. We've seen that from a few pitchers this year. Reese Olson's been doing it a lot more. Kenta Maeda did it, but I don't know if that's really something we should be talking about for why it's a smart idea. But I really like that. I like righty sinkers are that's thumbs up for me. So I like that sequencing. I think you can play a lot off of that. So yeah, I mean, he was great. He made one bad pitch, literally one bad pitch. And after the game, this dude's in the locker room and he had a quote where he's like, yeah, the home run I gave up cost us the game. No, dude, no. Absolutely not. He only gave up 2 hits. The first leadoff hitter and then the home run in the second batter of the game. He threw a no-hitter after the home run 2 batters in. That pitch did not cost us the game. He could have played 15 innings. We weren't scoring a run. Really good command in this one, I thought, again, outside of a couple of splitters, and then obviously the curveball, but loved the sequencing, love how he attacked righties specifically, and that splitter is so fun because it's so good against both-handedness, so I wanted to give him credit there. Tyler Holton and Will Vest, I thought looked pretty solid. Both have been better lately. They were looking a little bit rocky there at one point at the end of April, kind of early May-ish. And I think they've both been better lately. Tyler Holton, especially or specifically, I think has looked a lot better in his recent outings. Bo Brisky, debut on the year, got called up yesterday or 2 days ago, as we talked about. The changeup is still disgusting. It was a great pitch, really good fastball as well. So much better than it was when he was a starter, genuinely. Didn't see the slider in this one, really. I think he threw one, but he didn't need it either. So I'm not really going to be mad about that. We can put that on the back burner and talk about it in his next outing. Like the thing that is, again, to loop back to the wasting conversation, it's that this offense doesn't even have to be that good, right? They could have scored, again, 2 runs. They could have scored a run in game 2. Literally one. They could have scored one single run in one on Tuesday. They could have scored 2 or 3 runs and at least forced extras, if not one, on Wednesday. It's frustrating. Obviously, they're not going to get shut out the rest of the year. They'll score again. They'll go on some random hot streak, and right now they're on a huge, huge cold front. But again, the area that's concerning for me is just looking at the lineup and going, okay, if this lineup is to be good enough, right? Not good, not great. This offense is to be good enough. The points of growth are there's certainly, again, a few players. I'm not trying to say that everybody is just playing as good as they can. That is obviously not true. I had this team winning over 80 games. What did I say? 83, 84 games this year. Clearly, I thought the offense was going to be better than it has been. But I also don't think that there's some astronomical room for growth. I don't think that just all 9 players are significantly underperforming and just if they all just play to their career averages, we'd be a lot better. We just went through the lineup on Wednesday. A lot of them are. A decent amount of them, I should say, are. And that, then all eyes go to the front office and go to Scott Harris and go to the decision makers of this team. It's concerning. I think that's a really, really fair thing to say. I don't think it is unfair for me to call it concerning. Now, there's still well over 100 games to play. And you're a game under 500. This is not, the end of April, the last 3 years where you're 15 games under and the season is over already. The reason why people are really upset about this is because you are in the thick of it and you do have a chance to be something. And this division is on the table. I think most people still believe over the course of the season. There is a lot of baseball to be played. I will be here after every game. I'm not writing off a season like I said yesterday. But something has to give. There's no move you're going to make that's magically going to take this offense from being down here, in the cellar to being a top 10 offense in baseball. It's not going to happen mid-season. It's not going to happen in May, certainly. You're not going to call up a minor leaguer that's going to save the day magically. But as I've said a lot over the last week, this is a group effort of suck. You have to moves need to be made and players need to step up. The Torkelsons, the Colt Keiths, the Javis, etc. Everybody needs to be better. Wow, what great analysis. Awful. I just don't know what else to say, dog. We've been talking about how awful the offense is for about 2 weeks now. We're halfway through May. I don't know how many different angles to attack this, really. Um I'm trying. I promise you. And I will continue to. I'm not going anywhere, right? We're here after, 5 days a week. Um my oh my. Like I said, mailbag tomorrow. We are going to be answering your questions. I'm sure a lot will be about the offense or about specific moves or whatnot. I feel like this is kind of good timing, dreadful timing because it's going to be a lot of negative questions, but good timing just in the sense of I think a lot of people have a lot of questions about the current state of the organization, given how the team has played lately. So I do think that this is kind of if there is any silver lining for the show, at least it's that this is good timing to have a mailbag. So like I said, you can tweet out your questions, you can DM them to me, you can leave them in the comment section on YouTube, however you do it. And again, there's no way I'm going to get through all of them. We're not going to have time, but I will get through as many as I possibly can. And we will go from there. And we'll have plenty of mailbags throughout the season as well. All-Star break, we usually do one. I'm sure around trade deadline we'll have one. We'll have draft as well. We'll have a ton of draft coverage here. So we'll have plenty of opportunities to get more questions in. But that's going to be tomorrow's that's going to be Friday's show. Okay. All right. I appreciate you all. Go out and enjoy a beautiful day. I'm about to go have dinner with my old man, with my dad. It was his birthday recently. Got him a cool gift. Got him a record player. Pretty pumped to give that to him. So that'll be kind of fun. Beautiful day in Detroit on Wednesday. Hopefully Thursday is the same. Enjoy the day off. The off day from the Tigers, at least. I know I will. And I'll see y'all tomorrow answering your questions. All right? All right. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.